921-0558. 800-921-0558.
What happened when you actually went to report the numbers to the Iowa Democratic Party?
Well, I chose to go on the phone.
Why? Did you didn't want to use the app?
I could be because I'm technologically ignorant.
And you didn't want to use the app?
I tried, and at my certain age, I'm not interested in learning.
I want to stop right there just for a second of those two replies. Being technologically ignorant pertaining to the instruments that the vast majority of people now have that don't know how to run. Don't know how to run. Including myself. I don't know every feature about my phone. You know, there's some people out there that can take that phone and whiz it to the point that they can save themselves thousands of dollars a year just off of shopping promotions and doing comparable prices versus one place versus another. I can't do that. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I can do that. So in a way, I'm technologically ignorant. Now, the concept of what this individual just said, listen to it carefully.
I tried, and at my certain age, I'm not interested in learning. My certain age, I'm not interested in learning. My certain age, I'm not interested in learning.
All right, so let's get out of the...
Let's back up again. Stop. Let's go.
What happened when you actually went to report the numbers to the Iowa Democratic Party?
Well, I chose to go on the phone.
Why? Did you didn't want to use the app?
I could be because I'm technologically ignorant.
You didn't want to use the app?
I could be because I'm technologically ignorant.
And you didn't want to use the app?
I could be because I'm technologically ignorant.
And you didn't want to use the app?
I could be because I'm technologically ignorant.
And you didn't want to use the app?
I tried, and at my certain age, I'm not interested in learning. My certain age, I'm not interested in learning. My certain age, I'm not interested in learning.
That's where we are in the election of 2020 of what we're all fixing to walk off into of this next election. We got people that are technologically ignorant, and we got people that holds these positions that make claims that at their age it comes a time that they're no longer interested in learning. Now, the second comment I don't approve of, and I'm not going to abide by, because I personally feel like that a person never reaches a state, even if they're 99 years old, they never reach a state that they should not be interested in learning. And it doesn't matter if it's learning technological stuff on the phone, or knowing what app to get on, or what app not to get on, or just learning in general. No matter how old you are. You know, if you want to use the easy escape out towards saying, oh, it's my age, and because it's my age, I'm really not interested in learning, that's fine. That's fine. Because you can use any excuse you want to use. You can use age. You can use, oh, it was my background. Oh, it was because I didn't have the availability whenever I was growing up in school. You can use the excuse, well, I just can't comprehend. I just don't have the right intelligence to be able to figure out more intelligence. You can use whatever excuse you want to use. But the bottom line is this. This chaos that we're seeing in this state is the beginning phases of what's going to occur on a national level all over this country unless the Americans decide that they're going to pull their bootstraps up and they're going to address this international global crisis pertaining to people not being engaged in intelligence, artificial intelligence, to the degree that we no longer have these type of hiccups. I don't care if you have to take 8th graders and put them in the positions that all these old people are in right now. You know, I used to see this t-shirt that said, "Old men rule." Well, do they? Do old men rule? Old men used to rule based on the environment that we was in or they was in back years ago, but we're no longer in that same environment. We're in a whole new environment pertaining to all this new technology stuff. So if they can't handle what they should be handling for the benefit of the people, my suggestion would be get those people out. Get those people out. I'm going to say it one more time. Get those people out in a respectful, dignified way and put people in their positions that can handle the technology, that knows what to do and how to do it. This is part of the hiccup that the American people has addressed towards wanting to spend too much time in the old ways. Nostalgia is good, but put nostalgia where nostalgia needs to be. Nostalgia is part of our history. And there's nothing wrong with nostalgia, regardless whether it's nostalgia cars, old cars, or nostalgia methods of teaching, or nostalgia this, or nostalgia that. Nothing wrong with nostalgia. But don't get asphyxiated on it to the point that that's where you are in life. You're stuck in the past. You're stuck in the past. We got to come out of the past and into the future. We got to be able to adapt. And if you're not adaptable, just like the individual that just got through saying, there reaches an age where you no longer think that, and this individual may have made straight A's in school. I don't know who he is.
By a certain age, I'm not interested in learning. By a certain age, I'm not interested in learning.
This individual may have made straight A's in school. I don't know who he is. Don't know him from Adam. And if the truth be known, the interviewer that's interviewing the individual don't know him from Adam. But that was his reply. And it was an honest reply. And there's nothing wrong with that reply on an individual level. There's nothing wrong with that reply. At his age, he has reached the age to where, he just don't want to learn no more, especially towards gravitating into the area of technology. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that on an individual level. But on a massive level, on the level of the benefit of we the people, yes, there's something wrong with people that has that attitude that are still trying to run the show. You see what I'm saying? We need to have good, bright individuals in there that are learning and have learned technology towards knowing what app to get on, how to get on it, what happens if you get too many people on it, where there's a back door in case we can't go through the front door. We need to have good, sound, decent 21st century people that are capable of not having this type of a hiccup that can result in massive confusion that could actually turn into massive chaos. I mean, the deal that happened pertaining to the hanging chads down in Florida to me was one of the most embarrassing situations of how that, I'm going to go ahead and say it, how that the Republicans basically stole the election from the Democrats over the hanging chads down in Florida. That was one of the most embarrassing scenarios, looking at it from a national perspective, from the masses, the will of the people. That was one of the most embarrassing situations that America has ever had to hurdle around or hurdle over in regard to our free, fair, open elections, in regard to our democracy. Folks, if we can't get a handle on this, if we can't control what's going on, we're going to steadily engage in more chaotic and more irregularities and more cheating and more stuff that is just totally in left field. Listen to the rest of this. Listen to the rest of this interview, this interviewist, towards what she's saying and how that she's saying it in regard to our free, fair. You got that word? Fair. There's nothing fair about chaos. There's nothing fair about not knowing what's going on. There's nothing fair about engaging onto an app that shuts itself down and you don't have somebody smart enough to either reopen it or go through the back door and find some other procedure to be able to identify the movement of all these people that engaged in a free, fair, open election pertaining to our democracy. There's nothing fair pertaining to chaos and anarchy. And we as a society can do better than that. Listen to this, please.
At my certain age, I'm not interested in learning.
All right, so let's get out of the politics and let's get into the technicals. After last night's debacle in Iowa, there are now tons of questions being asked about that app that was supposed to make it easier to report results, but it appears to have made it a whole lot harder and in some cases impossible. The Iowa Democratic Party is insisting the app itself never crashed, but there were plenty of red flags about this technology and its reliability long before last night. NBC's Cal Perry has been looking into this. He is in Iowa City. Cal, should they have seen these issues coming?
Yeah, they should have, because we have emails that were obtained here by NBC News at 9 a.m. yesterday. They knew there was a problem. Here's what the precinct captains sort of wrote to each other, and I'm quoting directly from these emails. Quote, I've given up on the app. That's at 9:13 a.m. I'm not using the app, writes somebody else. Quote, nobody having trouble with the app should feel dumb. Somebody writes at 9:09 in the morning, Stephanie, I'm hearing way more problems than 2016. Worst case, I'll call it in, which I expect 90% of the state was doing anyway. And therein lies the problem. The app isn't working. Everybody gets on the phone line last night at the same time, about 9 p.m. local time, to try to read those results. The phone lines get jammed up, so nobody can read the results. Nobody can get the results. We've heard just in the last 5-10 minutes from the Iowa Democratic Party saying, as part of our investigation, we've determined with certainty that the underlying data collected via the app was sound, but the app itself had a reporting system problem.
Had a reporting system problem. Had a reporting system problem. I agree with what the individual said, that people shouldn't feel ignorant because they could not tag on in understanding what was happening. But ultimately what did happen was total chaos. Total chaos is what happened on a state level. Now, once more, can't we do better than this in the 21st century? If we don't know what we're doing, admit that we don't know what we're doing, and find somebody out there that does know what they're doing. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. This is the part that's breaking down the American progress. This is the point that I keep trying to make to individuals. It's not that we want to see 8th graders rule this particular entity of our lives, but guess what? If the 8th graders has more sense than the 80-year-old that didn't apply his life with the technological advances that's out there, maybe it would be best if you handed the material over to the 8th grader and let the 8th grader run the show. Especially if the 8th grader is more qualified. And nobody's trying to belittle, nobody's trying to hurt or harm anybody's integrity towards saying, you know what, that era of people just wasn't trained effectively and efficiently like they should have been whenever it comes to technological stuff. And because of it, unless you have proven yourself to be very technological, maybe we should hand the mantle over to somebody that can. I mean, I hate to be the one to bring this up, but I mean, this is embarrassing on a state level, similar towards what happened with the hanging chads on a national level. For God's sakes, don't you think we have adapted and evolved beyond that? Apparently not. We're still having these same type of issues in the 21st century, in 2020. Apparently we haven't got over that hurdle yet. Please, take notice of this. We're tired of Satan winning the war. It says in the Bible that Satan is the author of confusion and he's out to kill, steal, and destroy. We're tired of things not being handled properly and fairly. We're tired of certain groups of people that are in charge of our lives that never should have been in charge of our lives, because if the truth be known, they bogusly got the position that they're in right now. Bogusly got the position that they're in right now because of too many irregularities. Come on, folks. Aren't we bigger adults than this?
That's all well and good, but again, this state and the country is still waiting for results, and the problem seems to have been known, at least to the precinct chairs, since 9 a.m. yesterday, Stephanie.
Since 9 a.m. yesterday. Cal, thank you so much. This fallout is brutal, it's swift, it's coming from all sides, and some people are now actually saying that the state should lose its privilege of being the first to vote. I want to bring in Robert Leonard. He's the news director for a pair of Iowa radio stations. Robert, you wrote a rather beautiful, I would say, love letter to the Iowa caucuses. It was published just before all of this happened, and I thought of it while I was watching last night, and last night did seem beautiful. Actual people getting involved, caring about politics, volunteers. It was beautiful. How do you feel this morning, though?
Well, I feel like many other Iowans do, disappointed. We're sad that this happened. This is a setback for all of us, Democrats and Republicans alike. It's a setback for Iowa. We'll see how it recovers.
And we're tired of people apologizing over setbacks that is not just setbacking a few, but setbacking all of us. We're tired of the apologies. Because the truth be known, you should be wearing egg on your face right now because you did not have these things properly in order. It's one thing for you to make the mistake once. Shame, shame, shame. Shame on me because I allowed for something to occur. But shame on me twice because I allowed for it to occur again and again and again. Wow. And we wonder how come China and other countries are advancing in their technology and with their building codes as far as their architectural designs. We wonder how come that they're exceeding and excelling above and beyond us.
We'll see if Iowa retains its first in the nation status. But the thing that I think is really important for all of us to do is to take a step back. We can talk about the...
We don't want to hear what you think. That's another era that's bringing forth the weakest link. We don't want to hear what you think. We want to hear what you know. We want to hear what you know. Don't tell us what you think. Don't tell us what you believe. Don't tell us what your metaphor is. We want to know what you know. We're talking about the masses. We're talking about the benefit of the whole.
Not failing last night, but ultimately there's backups to backups to backups, and there's a paper trail. I stood over the shoulder in 2 different precincts of friends of mine who were recording in real time what was happening. That paper trail exists, and that, well, it didn't.
Do you know how long it took for them to recount the Chads and the hanging Chads down there in Florida? Whenever finally it was over with, they finally wound up beating Al Gore, the Democrat Party, out of that position. I think it was weeks that it took them to recount everything by hand. There has to be some sort of better measurement of properly counting these votes and making sure that there is no mistakes with hanging chads and there is no mistakes with apps that wind up crashing, and then we don't have people smart enough to either go through the back door of the same app, or there'll be another app that backs that app up that knows how to go in and get that app. There has to be another way of being able to do this and still maintain the credibility and the dignity of democracy. There has to be, folks. There has to be. We're living in the 21st century. We are no longer in the caveman, prehistoric, barbaric days of just now discovering the wheel and fire. Come on. Please.
Exist, for the information didn't come out at the speed that the media wanted it to, but we just need to relax, take a step back, and that trust that the process works. And this is our future. We need to...
And we're not going to relax. That's another area of bad preaching ethics. You don't tell people to relax whenever you got a problem. You tell people to get up and go. We want to see some results. You don't tell people to relax. Relax is what's got us in second and third place compared to the rest of the world. Relax is what has got us $23 trillion in debt and over 2.3 million people incarcerated in federal and state jails. There is no room for relax. There is no room for second guessing. There is no room for second best or third best or third best. We're talking about survival to the fittest. And we're talking about one of the greatest nations that, as far as I'm concerned, is still a great nation. But we used to be number one nation amongst all the other nations in every department you can think of, from the agriculture department to the medical department to the smokestack department to the science department. We used to be number one in every group imaginable amongst all the other countries. What has caused us to be second, third, and fourth? Relax. We're not relaxing. We're intensifying. We're bringing in people that knows what they're talking about. We don't want to hear what you think. We want to hear what you know. Tell us what you know, not what you think.
To plan for this is the future of America and the future of democracy. And that we need...
Now that party got right. This is the future. Chaos? No, not chaos. We want it to be accurate, right down to the letterhead of every vote that gets cast. If it's a minus, we want to see it's a minus. If it's a plus, we want to see that it's a plus. We don't want to guess. We don't want somebody voting that's been dead for 10 years. We don't want no questions about the authenticity of an election, regardless whether it's a county election, state election, or federal election. That's what has got us in the trouble that we're in. Too many people have taken control of our lives that never should have taken control of our lives, that has put us all in peril. All of us. Even the ones that hadn't even been born yet. Because as soon as they get born, guess what? They're in the same boat everybody else is in.
Be prepared for backups, and just be patient.
But the problem is people don't trust the process. You just said we're going to wait and see if Iowa loses its first in the nation status. Should they lose it?
I don't think that they should lose it. I think that they should comprehend the position that they have they jeopardized their own people in. And I think that it should be a green light towards making some radical moves of making sure that it doesn't happen again. We're tired of these mistakes. We're tired of the hanging chads. We're tired of people being in control of our lives that never should have been in control of our lives. We're tired of this type of false narrative that continues to keep standing out again and again and again. And you wonder how come the system is rigged. Well, it's possibly because those that are in charge wants it to be rigged. They want it to be corrupt. Because they're not willing to admit it, and they don't want to have an early retirement of settling down or sitting down because it's going to hurt their pride. Because it's going to hurt their pocketbook. In the meantime, you got all these other people that their pocketbooks are being hurt. I've never seen such of a country that's so upside down right now. You know, whenever you have a president that's not willing to admit to the nation that what he done was improper, it was unloyal, what he done with the Ukrainian government was wrong in the sense towards trying to hoodwink a group of people into something that he personally found favor in wanting to do for his own personal benefit pertaining to the Bidens. Whenever you have this much illegitimacy and this much hypocrisy going on, it has created an atmosphere of chaos. Chaos on every level. And until we're willing to attack the chaos and what has caused the chaos, regardless of what we have to do it, we're going to see more chaos. So yes, it is affecting our future. And it's not just affecting our future. It's affecting little Johnny and little Sally's future. Or it's affecting children's future that hadn't even been born yet. How much seriouser can you get than that?
I'm not going to say whether Iowa should lose its first in the nation status. All I know is that we've worked very hard. I first interviewed a presidential candidate 2.5 years ago. And those presidential candidates, every single one of them, I've interviewed them all, most of them all, and they're all better for this. And that Iowans did their job. They did the very best that they could. There was a technological problem. Google Drive went down last week. Google Calendar,
A glitch. A glitch happened is what you're telling us. Who created the glitch? Was it hacked? And if it was hacked, who hacked it? Was it the Russians? Was it North Korea? Was it some other country? Was it homegrown glitch? Was it somebody within your whole region that caused this chaos? Who done this? How come it wasn't prevented from ever happening to begin with? pertaining to the glitz? Huh? I'm just asking some questions. You know, whenever you look at old school ways is not the best whenever it comes to certain things. Some things, old school ways, are good. You know, whenever pertaining to people retiring, sitting around on their rocking chair, going to the lake and doing a little fishing, enjoying good quality time with their granddaughter or their grandson, old ethnics, old ways are the best in certain areas, are the best. Old friendships, old relationships are the best. But whenever you're talking about moving in a direction towards becoming and staying number one, you don't use old tactics. Once more, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. If you got a weak link, guess what you do with the weak link? You get rid of the link and you replace it with a stronger link. And if you figure out you got another weak link, you replace that link. And you put in another link that's stronger than that link. That's how you become number one. That's how you take your strategies of your weak and your strongest and your weakest points, and you put your weakest where they're still going to be effective, and you put your strongest where you know where they're going to be effective. That's what makes good leadership. And that's something that we're struggling to have here in this country, is good leadership. People that obviously either haven't been taught how to run the show or just don't know how to run the show. Obviously, we don't have good leadership methods or leadership tactics anymore to the degree of knowing. I'm going to use this analogy, which some people say it's the wrong analogy. The people that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. If you don't know what you're doing, give the mantle to somebody else that maybe that they do know what they're doing. Hand the mantle to somebody else. Say, here you go, 8th grader. Go at it. You figure it out where the glitches are. Because the glitches is embarrassing, and the glitches is what is holding America down. It's holding America back. We don't need another hanging Chad event. Ever again. Ever.
Weeks ago, these kinds of things happen. And that's why you have backups and backups. And the results will come out of Iowa today. And they can be trusted. I know that they can be trusted because I watch my friends, my neighbors, count on them. Now, that said, a friend suggested this morning that maybe we need to put this in the hand of the county auditors in the future and of the state, and let the state.
Let's back this up real quick. Let's back this up. Let's get all of what he just said. Stop.
They did the very best that they could. There was a technological problem. Google Drive went down last week. Google Calendar a couple of weeks ago. These kinds of things happen. And that's why you have backups and backups. And the results will come out of Iowa today. And they can be trusted. I know that they can be trusted because I watch my friends, my neighbors, count on them. Now, that said, a friend suggested this morning that maybe we need to put this in the hand of the county auditors in the future and of the state, and let the state do it. Maybe it's too big and complex, but I have faith in Iowans, just like I have faith in the people of New Hampshire, the people of Nevada, South Carolina. This is the democratic process. Small-scale societies have gathered forever amongst our friends and neighbors and cast our votes with accountability. And the caucuses are a great system. I'm not saying it's the only system. I'm not saying Iowa should be first. We're proud to be first. I personally hope it continues, and we did our very best, and we will continue to do our very best.
But what if very best isn't good enough? Let's say Iowa keeps its status. Should we take a closer look at the caucus system and say maybe the system should be scrapped?
Maybe it should. All I know is that this isn't an aberration. We were counting hanging Chads for weeks in Florida, and we need to have integrity of our election process.
But Robert,
and
that was years ago.
We do have it here.
Now that it's 2020, should we say let's embrace a new method so we're not doing that?
Exactly.
Well, the best method is paper, and that's what we're counting on now. We can trust that paper ballot. We can trust our friends and neighbors that are doing it. We trust our county auditors. It's the technology that failed this time. I'm sure heads will roll. Perhaps Iowa will lose its First Nation status, but there will always be somebody first. And the important
Paper. Did you hear what he said? Is that not old school thinking? The best is on paper. Wow. You know, before there was paper, there was caves. And people wrote on cave walls describing what they seen, what they felt, what they thought, what they heard, what they believed. They wrote inscriptions in stone before paper. Are we going to go back to stone writing methods? We need to go forward, folks, and not backward. The day of discovering the wheel or fire is over with. We need to get over these hurdles and move on to evolve to the next level that we all should be on. If not, we're going to continue to stumble. We're going to continue to scratch our heads. We're going to continue to wonder who actually won that election. Lord, the Homo sapien race, especially over here in America, are very, very hard-headed, number one. And number two, they actually think that they're invincible. I have studied the Homo sapien race over here. Just like the new disease, coronavirus. Most people that hear of that, I'm going to say over 50% that hears that immediately thinks, oh, that ain't nothing. We'll find a cure for that. Most of the people in America are either naive or they have been deceived in thinking that we as a society over here are invincible. And I got news for them. All of them. None of us, including myself, is invincible from the elements thereof. And you got to look realistically, the new environment that we've walked into as far as technological advances is now, yes, part of our environment. Paper used to be the best. We got to get over this. We got to learn to move ahead.
thing now is to step back and wait and see. This is part of our process. There was a technological failure last night, but it isn't a failure of the system. Part of the system is the backup after backup after backup, and it's going to work, and Iowa is going to yield accurate results, and the campaigns need to trust in us. They know us, they know the party officials, they know that we have the Iowans and the nation's best interests at stake. And if it doesn't happen, if Iowa loses its First Nation status, so be it. I wish the other First Nation states the best of luck.
Well, Robert, the sentiment of trusting your friends and neighbors is always a good one to end on. We're going to leave it there. I know you've definitely got a busy day ahead. Coming up, one of the presidential hopefuls who is still waiting for the results from Iowa is joining us ahead. But first, President Trump preparing to give his third State of the Union while still under the cloud of impeachment. Now there is a twist, courtesy of a Democratic senator.
We're having a BOGO.
Boy, oh boy.
Right now, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Right now, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is speaking on the Senate floor to kick off the day just one day before President Trump's impeachment trial is set to come to a dramatic conclusion. And while it is expected we're going to see a majority of senators will vote to acquit, there's new drama this morning with Democratic Senator from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, proposing a new resolution to censure President Trump.
I do believe a bipartisan majority of this body would vote to censure President Trump for his actions in this manner. Censure would allow this body to unite across party lines and as an equal branch of government to formally denounce the president's actions and hold him accountable.
Joining us now, the man who broke this news, Robert Costa, national political reporter for The Washington Post and moderator of Washington Week on PBS, and Eddie Glaude, a professor at Princeton University and an MSNBC contributor. Roberto, why is he introducing this resolution now, days after Republican-led Senate doesn't even want witnesses to speak?
Part of the reason is where he comes from, West Virginia, a state won by President Trump in 2016. Senator Manchin has a deep political base in that state, wants to keep that political base. While he remains undecided, some Democratic sources of mine say Senator Manchin could vote to acquit President Trump this week in the Senate impeachment trial. So he's looking for an option. How does he rebuke President Trump, but come up with a way of doing so in a way that's less severe than removing him from office? He's been floating the censure idea to colleagues, and now he's formally introduced the idea.
Eddie, what's your take? Is this just air cover for Democrats who want to vote to acquit the president, but say they did something?
Ding, 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 ding. That right there. I think it's absolutely that. It seems to me that there's no way that Mitch McConnell, who's been carrying Donald Trump's water, will allow this to get to the Senate floor. And so the idea that the perfect call, that we've just now, that Trump has been kind of touting that he didn't do anything wrong. And even though we saw certain senators like Murkowski and Lamar Alexander saying that it was wrong, I still don't believe Mitch McConnell will turn. And all of this is just simply an attempt in some ways to provide some conservative Democrats cover in order for them to quit.
Robert, President Trump's approval rating, according to The Hill, is nearing record highs. Look at the markets this morning. In the last 10 minutes, they're already up almost 400. Yes, he's under this cloud of impeachment, but he's going to get acquitted tomorrow. And is he rolling into this State of the Union feeling as strong as ever?
When you talk to White House officials, as the Washington Post has in recent days, you hear that confidence from them. They've been a little bit on edge about coronavirus and other concerns, but as you see, the markets for now are not adjusting in any dramatic way, though they did drop a few days ago, now seem to be inching back. They believe, though, they have a fight on their hands, that President Trump saw an erosion of his support in the suburbs in 2018, so it's by no means going to be a cakewalk to the White House in a second term, especially as populism rises on the left, and voters may give that version of populism a chance this fall.
Eddie, what's your take?
Our system of checks and balances have been thoroughly undermined.
Legally.
Donald Trump now inhabits, for all intents and purposes, the imperial executive branch.
Legally.
So we have now moved into this idea of executive power that is now consistent with what William Barr articulated. The idea of executive power that actually informed the way in which many people were defending Richard Nixon, who came out of that, Don Rumsfeld, who came out of that, Dick Cheney, who came out of that, William Barr, a whole range of folks. So there is this kind of political lineage around the way in which the executive functions that has actually won. And we need to understand that for what it is. So Donald Trump will take a victory lap tonight, and we need to prepare ourselves for it.
So, Robert, how do Democrats play that? We could say all day how the House did, the great points that Adam Schiff and others made. But at the end of the day, President Trump is going to run a victory lap, and Mitch McConnell is as well.
Because of the chaos in Iowa last night, Democrats are likely to have a full month to make a decision, because you're not going to have so much clarity coming out of New Hampshire, close to the home states of Senator Warren and Senator Sanders. South Carolina is a bastion for Vice President Biden's support. Super Tuesday in early March is going to be the marker. Where is this party going to go? Who do they want to have as their standard bearer? Someone who's more moderate, seasoned? Do they want someone who's more progressive, more of a firebrand and anti-establishment? There's going to be a full month now where the Democrats have to grapple with who exactly they want, and we didn't get any kind of indication last night, at least for the moment, because we don't have a result.
Last point to you, Eddie.
There's a major political realignment happening in the country. What we do know is that everyday ordinary working people are struggling to make ends meet. And they know that our politics are broken. And so there's skepticism around Donald Trump. There's skepticism around the Democratic Party. Folks are looking for folk to step up. And so what we will see coming forward is the volatility of folk really looking for change, substantive change. So we'll see.
We'll see. Eddie, Robert, thank you. We're going to leave it there. Coming up, talking about the Democratic Party in some...
Old men rule. Remember that. Old men rule. Old ethics, old thinking rules. And that's the reason why we're in the shape that we're in. It's because of these old ideologies, these old methods, these old way of thinking. That's the point that I wanted to try to make today to my viewers. That sometimes old isn't the best way. We're ready for new ideals. We're ready for new leaps of achieving into the future. We're ready to conquer and take on new arrivals and new enemies that have changed their strategies. And the only way that we're going to win is not to work harder, but to work smarter. Kind of like the smart crook of today that goes in the back door and takes all your money out of your bank account digitally. He no longer has to hold you up with a gun out on the street somewhere, because he knows odds are you're not going to have no amount of cash on you to speak up to begin with. So how does the crook adjust? How does the thief, the robber, adjust? He goes to the back door. He uses technology to be able to do this. They hold whole cities up, like New Orleans, that if you don't do what we're telling you to do, we're going to put a bug in all your machines. And it's going to take thousands and thousands of man hours and thousands of dollars to get this bug out of your digital platforms. Wow, people. Can we not wake up yet to the 21st century? Old men rule may not be the best tactic to use in the 21st century, especially once you've already figured out, hey, somebody's done discovered the wheel, somebody's done discovered fire. So what's the next best thing that we can discover? Well, let's not look at the wheel no more, because we've done discovered what the wheel is. Let's not look at fire no more, because we've done discovered what fire is. Let's evolve and get that old men rule concept out of our minds and evolve to something new. Thank you for listening. Good luck to all of us. And once more, shalom.